I was married to the cold female CEO, Lu Shujia. After 2 years, the contract is finally about to expire. According to the agreement, she will give me 50 million as a divorce settlement fee. On the day of signing the papers, my heart raced and my hands trembled. I couldn't help but scream in my heart, sign it, hurry up. My Maldives, golden sun, and sandy beaches, the bikini-clad girls are waiting for me. But unexpectedly, Lu Shujiao's hand suddenly stopped. Come on, lady, don't leave me hanging at such a critical moment. Lawyer Wang asked, CEO Lu, is there a problem? Lu Shujiao didn't bother to look at him. She just stared straight at me. Could it be she discovered that last week I secretly drank the precious bottle of wine that she collected? No, that's not right, that 1,982 Lafite bottle. I clearly poured in a cheap wine that tasted almost the same. I stared at the divorce agreement in front of me, fingers lightly tapping on the mahogany tabletop. Lawyer Wang's assistant whispered to ask, Mr. Kuei, is the coffee to your liking? It's delicious, thanks. I snapped back to reality and picked up the Blue Mountain coffee, which cost half my day's salary, and took a sip. Damn it. It's not even as good as the cheap and instant coffee from a convenience store. The assistant politely stepped out. I continued to stare blankly at the agreement. To be precise, I was looking at the figure on it. 50 million, a solid 50 million yuan. Suppressing the urge to throw my head back and laugh, I could only celebrate wildly in my heart. 2 full years, the marriage contract is finally coming to an end. From today, I, Quid Bod Dad, will reach the peak of my life. A beach view villa in the Maldives, limited edition Ferrari supercar. No longer having to follow her, for that same job, to attend boring commercial parties anymore. Director Lu has arrived. Hearing the assistant's announcement, I immediately adjusted my facial expression, acting with a restrained melancholy. This is the expression I practiced in front of the bathroom mirror for 2 whole months. A gentleman about to get divorced, ensuring anyone who looks would think I'm a good man who was abandoned. The door opens. Luther Jiao walks in, wearing high heels so sharp they could kill someone. Today she is wearing a navy blue suit. Her skin is so white it glows. But as usual, she took off her sunglasses and glanced at me. That look was no different from looking at a stapler in the office. Lawyer Vuong, are the documents ready? Her voice was still as cold as ever. Cold like frozen meat in the fridge. They are ready, CEO Lu. Lawyer Vuong respectfully handed over the documents and fountain pen. Just need you and Mr. Quid to sign, and the agreement will take effect. I watched her hold the pen, my heart starting to beat faster. Soon, very soon, my life of freedom is right before my eyes. MS, Lu skimmed through the terms of the agreement, confirming the 50 million breakup fee. There are no errors. The pen tip hovered right over the signature line. My breath seemed to stop. Sign it, quickly sign it, sign it. My Maldives, golden sun, sandy beaches, the bikini girls are waiting. At the very moment the pen tip was about to touch the paper, Luther Jiao's hand suddenly stopped. My heart almost jumped out of my throat. Please don't, ma'am, don't let me down at such a critical moment. General Manager Liu. Lawyer Wang asked in surprise, is there a problem? Lu Shujiao didn't even bother to look, she just stared intently at me. That gaze sent a chill down my spine. Could it be that she found out that last week I secretly drank the precious bottle of wine she collected? No, that's not right, that 1,982 bottle of Lafite. I clearly refilled it with a similar cheap wine. Lu Shujiao put down her pen, stood up and said, I've changed my mind, no more divorce. My mind immediately stalled. What? I blurted out, then hurriedly corrected myself. I mean, why so sudden? My voice trembled. My 50 million, my sea view villa, my supercar. What is this woman going crazy about? Didn't we agree on a 2-year contract? That we'd go our separate ways when it expired? The company has a new project. Divorcing now would affect our image. She picked up her Hermes bat, which cost as much as my annual salary, and walked toward the door. Remember to be on time, my dear husband. Those last 2 words. Watching her walk away with such poise, I slumped onto the sofa, feeling like my life had turned into a gray blur. Damn charity gala. I had already planned which suit to wear. Of course, it was the battle armor suit. To immediately rush to the nightclub and party until dawn. Lawyer Wang cleared his throat and said awkwardly, Mr. Kuei, so this agreement is cancelled, then? Translation missing. I waved my hand in frustration, suddenly thinking of something. Wait, can I keep this agreement as a souvenir? Anyway, let me take it home and have a good cry first. Leaving the lawyer's office, I stood by the road and called my best friend, Tran Hao. Hello, old Tran, something big happened. Luther Jiao suddenly changed her mind and won't divorce. What, is your 50 million gone? I gritted my teeth, she definitely did it on purpose. She probably found out I swapped her expensive wine. Now she's taking revenge. Wait. Tran Hao suddenly lowered his voice. Do you think maybe she likes you? I almost choked on my spit. Are you crazy? Luther Jiao, that workaholic ice queen. Do you know, I gave her a necklace for her birthday last time, which she said. Such luxury items affect work efficiency. Next time, just convert it to cash and donate it to charity. Then why won't she divorce? Who knows? I scratched my head in fury. She said it's for the company's image. What the hell is company image? We've been married for 2 years. The times we've slept together can be counted on one hand. Actually, we've never slept together. But we have to fake it in front of friends, man. I stood on the roadside, dazed for a while. Suddenly remembering the charity gala tonight, I felt like I was withering away. I have to dress up again to accompany her. I'll smile at those rich folks who fake smiles at me as if I'm a gold digger, a boy toy. Wait, I narrow my eyes. If Luther Jiao doesn't want a divorce, I'll make her the one who asks for it. Relentlessly bother her, cause a scene, the more annoying the better. With Luther Jiao's personality and her line of work, there's no way she can stand it for more than a month. Thinking of this, hope flares up in me again. 30 million, wait for me. I will definitely get my hands on you. But first, I have to go swap back the fake glamour bottle I switched. If Luther Jiao finds out, I probably won't get a single cent of the breakup fee. Standing before our shared house, I adjusted my bag and took a deep breath. It's been 2 years since I signed that damn marriage contract with Luther Jiao. The number of times I've entered this villa can be counted on one hand. And when I put the key in the lock, my hand trembled slightly. Not because of nerves, but because I'm mad that my 50 million is flying away. Just follow the plan. Within a month, Luther Jiao will definitely take the initiative to ask for a divorce. Luther Jiao will definitely take the initiative to ask for a divorce. Just follow the plan. Pushing the door open, a faint scent of jasmine wafted into my nose. The living room was spotless, without a speck of dust, exactly like the last time I was here. In other words, Luther Jiao probably doesn't stay here very often either. Dragging my suitcase to the second floor, I stood before the master bedroom, hesitated for 3 seconds, then decisively turned toward the guest room. Even though the contract says we must play a loving couple, it's better to keep our distance in private. Especially since now, my goal is to make Luther Jiao hate me, not to actually want to live with her. Just as I set my suitcase down, my phone rang. It was a message from Luther Jiao. 7 p.m. tonight, charity gala at the Hyatt Hotel. Don't be late. I looked at the screen and rolled my eyes. That's Luther Jiao's style. Even the punctuation exudes a commanding tone. Fine, dear wife, I will definitely be on time. I deliberately replied in a cheesy way, and added a tacky heart emoji. Immediately after sending, I regretted it. But I went too far. Luther Jiao is so smart, she will definitely be suspicious. But on second thought, suspicion is good. Making her see me as unusual is even better. I opened the suitcase and started packing. Right on top was the obnoxious husband gear that I had carefully prepared. 3 flashy shirts. Luther Jiao hates colorful clothes the most. A bottle of men's cologne, so strong it could suffocate someone. She once said she hated strong scents. A few tabloid magazines. She thinks reading these things is a waste of time. Perfect. I smirked, picked up the perfume bottle and sprayed it a few times on myself. Almost suffocated myself to death. Halfway through packing, my stomach started growling. I looked at the clock. 4 p.m. 3 hours left until the charity gala. Enough time to have a meal and then dress up to be truly obnoxious. I whistled as I went downstairs, intending to go to the kitchen to find something to eat. The moment I pushed the door open, I froze. Luther Jiao was sitting at the dining table. In front of her was a pile of documents, fingers clicking away on a laptop. She looked up at me. Her eyebrows immediately furrowed as she asked, "What did you spray on yourself?" "What did you spray?" "Newly bought perfume." "You like it?" I deliberately spun around to let the scent spread even more. Luther Jiao's nose wrinkled, but immediately returned to an expressionless face. She replied, "Fine." Wait, his reaction isn't right. She should have looked disgusted and told me to go shower immediately. "There's food in the fridge, heat it up yourself," Luther Jiao said without looking up. I felt like I'd been granted amnesty and hurriedly left the scene. I opened the fridge. Inside were several containers neatly arranged. Each box was labeled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's so Luther Jiao. Even food has to be planned by the day. I grabbed a container and put it in a microwave. While waiting, I secretly observed Luther Jiao. Sunlight poured in from the large window, casting a golden outline around her eyelashes, leaving small shadows on her face. I have to admit, this woman is truly beautiful. Too bad her personality is so terrible. The ding of the microwave interrupted my train of thought. I brought the meal box and sat at the other end of the table, trying to keep as much distance from Luther Jiao as possible. Wear the navy suit tonight. Luther Jiao suddenly spoke up. I was stuffing rice into my mouth and almost choked hearing that. I have my own style. Those floral shirts will embarrass me in front of clients. I curled my lip, inwardly rebutting. Who cares what your clients think? I'm going to wear that floral shirt anyway. Luther Jiao's fingers stopped typing for a moment, but then immediately continued. She simply said, suit yourself. I found it strange she gave in. This isn't Luther Jiao's style. After eating, I felt as if I'd been granted amnesty. I hurriedly ran back to the guest room. Locking the door, I leaned against it, panting. So strange. Luther Jiao is so strange today. I looked at the clock. It was 5:30 p.m. It was time to prepare for the dinner party. Even though I was talking big in my head just now, to stay safe, it was best to listen to her for the time being. I took out a navy blue suit and put on a flashy red tie as a small form of rebellion. At 6:30 p.m. when I went downstairs, Luther Jiao was already waiting in the living room. She was wearing a long, backless black dress, her hair in a high bun, revealing her slender neck. I have to admit, this woman is truly attractive, making it impossible to look away. Change your tie, she said without turning around. I looked down at my red tie. Why should I? I think it matches well. You look like a restaurant manager. Luther Jiao turned around, holding a navy blue tie in her hand. I gnashed my teeth and cursed her out in my head. You controlling freak with OCD, cold-faced as ice. Who would want to listen to you? Luther Jiao suddenly blinked. The corner of her mouth twitched slightly, but she quickly returned to her expressionless face. Hurry up, we're going to be late. Like a puppet on a string, I immediately changed the tie and followed her out. Once in the car, I decided to test something. I looked out the window and repeated frantically in my head. Luther Jiao is a man. 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 Luther Jiao remained focused on the tablet, showing no reaction at all. It seems I was overthinking it. Mind reading, how ridiculous. The charity gala was as boring as ever. Standing like a piece of decoration next to Luther Jiao, I flashed a fake smile at every guest who came to chat. These people are polite to me on the surface, but their eyes are full of contempt. A pretty boy living off a woman. Where do you work, Mr. Quay? A middle-aged man with a fleshy face asked with a smirk. My husband is a freelancer. Before I could open my mouth, Luther Jiao answered for me, naturally hooking her arm into mine. I almost choked on my own saliva. Luther Jiao proactively touched me. Has the sun risen from the west? Freelancer means being unemployed. The middle-aged man's eyes clearly showed disdain. In my heart, I cursed 18 generations of his ancestors. Luther Jiao suddenly gave my hand a light squeeze and said to him, perhaps Mr. Tuan doesn't know, my husband is a business analyst. Many of my investment decisions are supported by him. I looked at her in surprise. A business analyst? True, I did study this major in college, but how did she know? Moreover, the contract didn't say she had to hype me up. Exhausted and drained. These occasions are even more tiring than manual labor. At least labor doesn't require a fake smile. Back home, Luther Jiao went straight to the master bedroom. After the party, I was exhausted. These occasions are more tiring than manual labor. At least labor doesn't require a fake smile. Back home, Luther Jiao went straight to the master bedroom. I flopped onto the sofa and took out my phone to text Tran Hao. The plan has changed. Luther Jiao was too unusual today. Tran Hao replied immediately, how unusual? She praised me as a business analyst, and even proactively took my arm. My God, she hasn't actually fallen for you, has she? I sent back an angry emoji. Tomorrow the plan begins. This plan is the clingy husband strategy that Tran Hao and I had discussed thoroughly beforehand. Sending a bunch of messages every day. Making countless phone calls. Until Luther Jiao goes crazy and wants to kick me out the door. The next morning at exactly 7 o'clock, the alarm went off and I jumped up. I sent the first message to Luther Jiao. Babe, the weather is so beautiful today, I miss you. After sending it, even I got goosebumps. Luther Jiao usually wakes up at 7:30. Accurate as a clock. I waited for her to reply with a get lost or just block my number. The phone quickly vibrated. I was surprised to see a message from Luther Jiao. Good morning. The weather today really is beautiful. Remember to eat breakfast. I stared at the screen for a whole minute. Something's not right. Luther Jiao has never replied to such meaningless messages like this, not to mention caring about whether I ate breakfast or not. Unwilling to give up, I sent another message. What time do you get off work? I'll pick you up at the office and we can have dinner together. What time do you get off work? I'll pick you up at the office. This time, it took 5 minutes for a reply. 7 o'clock, I want to eat home-cooked food. I almost dropped my phone. What is this? Luther Jiao agreed to go on a date with me. According to Tran House theory, she should have found me annoying. In that day, I was like a madman. I sent a message to Luther Jiao every half hour. From have you eaten lunch yet? To is the office air conditioning too cold, leaving nothing out. The scarier part was that Luther Jiao replied to every single one, even taking the initiative to send a photo of her lunch. 6:30 in the evening, I stood outside the group building, standing at the Lu group. I felt like a complete fool. The plan had failed miserably. Now I even have to reluctantly go for Japanese food with Luther Jiao. Mr. Kui, a voice called out from behind. I turned around to see a guy in a dapper suit standing there, with a fake smile on his face. Bitch Fan Thao. I nodded. This guy was Luther Jiao's vice president. Always mocking me, both openly and secretly. Mr. Kui, what a surprise to see you here. CEO Lu has an important meeting today. She probably won't have time to see you. Bitch Fan Thao looked me up and down. Honestly, it's quite a surprise to see you here. CEO Lu has an important meeting today. She probably won't have time to see you. Just as I was about to fire back, Luther Jiao's voice rang out from the building entrance. I turned and saw her in her signature office attire. High heels clicking against the marble floor, making a sharp, crisp sound. Bitch Fan Thao's expression immediately turned respectful. Oh, CEO Lu, didn't you say that tonight you had to work late to review the merger? I changed my mind. Luther Jiao didn't even spare him a glance and walked straight to me. Unexpectedly, she took my arm. My husband booked a Japanese restaurant. Bitch Fan Thao's face looked like he'd just swallowed a fly. I suppressed a laugh and deliberately kissed Luther Jiao's cheek. Let's go, honey. Once we left the building, Luther Jiao immediately let go of my arm, reverting to her ice beauty persona. Nice acting. I said. It's all the same, she replied. I pouted and asked why she helped me deal with Bitch Fan Thao. Luther Jiao raised an eyebrow and asked in return, don't you hate that guy? That's true, but I suddenly stopped to ask. Wait, how do you know I hate him? But every time you see him, your face looks like you just stepped on dog poop. Luther Jiao said calmly. This explanation was reasonable. But I still felt something wasn't right. Inside a Japanese restaurant, Luther Jiao even poured me a glass of sake. I heard you studied business analysis in university. Yeah, but I never used it after graduating. I replied warily. How do you know? It's written on the marriage certificate. Luther Jiao took a sip. Sake, why didn't you work in that field? I shrugged. I never found a good opportunity. But the truth was, after graduating I was addicted to gaming, wasting a whole year. And couldn't find a related job after that. Are you interested in working at the Lu Corporation? Luther Jiao suddenly asked. I spat out my drink. What, work at your company? There's a project that needs business analysis recently, Luther Jiao said with a terrifyingly serious face. Salary is at market rate. I narrowed my eyes and asked, why are you suddenly so kind? Luther Jiao put down her glass and looked me straight in the eye. Because I see you are wasting your talent. This answer took me by surprise. I thought she would say because the contract hasn't expired, or because of the company's image, those formulaic reasons. I narrowed my eyes and asked, why are you suddenly so kind? Luther Jiao put down her glass and looked me straight in the eye. Because I see you are wasting your talent. I'll consider it, but in my heart I secretly thought, what is this woman planning now? I'll consider it, I replied casually, but in my heart I thought, what is this woman planning? 7 o'clock the next morning. Like a secret agent, I tiptoed outside the master bedroom door. Hand pressed against the door, listening. No, some Luther Jiao must still be sleeping. I cleared my throat and called out in the sweetest voice possible. Baby, wake up, the sun is already shining on your butt. A thud came from inside, as if a pillow had been thrown against the door. The plan was a success. Feeling very smart with a grin, I continued in a sickeningly sweet tone. I've made breakfast for you. Love fried eggs and toast. The door swung open. Luther Jiao stood at the threshold. Her hair was a bit messy and she looked sleepy, but she was still stunningly beautiful. She was wearing a silk nightgown. The collar was slightly open, revealing her delicate collarbone. I quickly looked down, chanting in my head. 50 million, 50 million, 50 million. Since when did you know how to cook? Luther Jiao's voice was slightly raspy with sleepiness. I learned it specifically for you. I winked, adding in my heart. Actually, I just ordered takeout and plated it. Luther Jiao narrowed her eyes. That look sent a chill down my spine. She wouldn't have found out, would she? Thanks, she suddenly said, walking straight to the dining table. I was stunned. Was that it? No sarcasm, no telling me to get lost. At the dining table, Luther Jiao took small bites of my love breakfast. Her expression was as calm as if she were at a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I sat opposite her like a student waiting for a grade. The fried bread is too salty, the toast is burned. She put her fork down. But I appreciate this sentiment. My jaw nearly hit the table. This was not Lu Thurjiao's style. According to Tran Hao's script, at this moment, she should have pushed the plate away in disgust and said, "If the food is this bad, don't bring it up anymore. What are your plans for today?" Lu Thurjiao wiped her mouth, her movements as elegant as if filming a commercial. "Nothing special." I was flustered and forgot all the lines I had prepared. "And come to the company with me." Lu Thurjiao stood up. "It just so happens there are some documents you need to sign." My eyes widened. "What documents?" "Confirming our joint marital assets," she said nonchalantly. "Since we're not divorcing anymore, we need to complete some additional procedures." My heart felt like it stopped beating. Joint assets? Doesn't that mean my 50 million is gone? Suddenly I remembered I have a dentist appointment today. A dentist appointment is extremely important. Lu Thurjiao gave a thin smile and looked at me. "Is that so? Then let's make it another day." She went up the stairs and suddenly turned back to add, "By the way, I'll text you this noon, remember to reply." I nodded blankly like an idiot. Waiting for her to go upstairs, I slumped into the chair. I felt that everything was wrong, so wrong. Lu Thurjiao not only didn't hate me for being clingy, but she was actually being clingy back. When she went up the stairs, she suddenly turned back to add, "By the way, I'll text you this noon, remember to reply." I nodded blankly like an idiot. Waiting for her to go upstairs, I slumped into the chair, feeling that everything was wrong. So very wrong. I took my phone and called Tran Hao. "No way." Tran Hao shouted on the other end. Lu Thurjiao is a workaholic type. She hates being disturbed the most. But she asked me to go to the company with her, and even said she'd text me this noon. The other end went silent for a few seconds. "Kaba dat. Are you sure you two are just in a contract marriage?" "Nonsense, we haven't even held hands yet." I lowered my voice, except for those times we were acting in public. "Then why is she suddenly like this?" Li Yuta and Hao mused. Unless what? "Unless she actually likes you." I almost crushed my phone. "Do you have water in your brain?" Li Thurjiao likes me? You know when I gave her flowers for her last birthday? Do you know what she said? "But these meaningless plants only attract bugs and pollen allergies." Then how do you explain her current attitude? I was speechless. Right, how to explain it? Suddenly a scary thought flashed. Old Chen. Tell me, could she be reading my mind? The other end burst out laughing. "Are you crazy? Mind reading? Do you think we're filming a sci-fi movie?" I also felt this thought was too ridiculous, but Li Thurjiao's actions recently have been truly too unusual. At 12 noon, the phone vibrated on time. A message from Li Thurjiao launch. I looked at the screen, my fingers trembling. To reply or not to reply? If I reply, wouldn't I be cooperating with her clingy behavior? I didn't reply. I could almost see Li Thurjiao with a cold face, deducting from my breakup fee. I ate, and you, finally, I still reply. Even adding a ragged heart emoji. Li Thurjiao replied, instantly eating. "There's a company party tonight. You come, okay?" It wasn't a question, but an order, typical Li Thurjiao style. I don't even know why there are parties all the time, but to avoid Li Thurjiao mentioning the matter of confirming joint assets, I didn't dare to object. "What kind of party is it?" "The celebration is at 7. Don't be late." I curled my lip, inwardly cursing control freak. My phone immediately vibrated. Remember to dress formally. I almost threw my phone away. Does this woman really have the superpower of mind reading? 7 o'clock in the evening. I wore the navy blue suit designated by Lu Thurjiao and stepped into the Lu Corporation building. In the elevator, I adjusted my tie in front of the mirror, calculating plan B for tonight in my head. Since being clingy wasn't effective, I would change my strategy. I would play the role of a playboy, making Lu Thurjiao lose face in front of everyone. The celebration took place in the rooftop banquet hall, but when I walked in, the atmosphere was already lively. Lu Thurjiao stood in the middle of the crowd. High-level managers surrounded her like a queen, receiving greetings from her subjects. Today, she wore a wine-red long dress, skin as white as snow, hair in a loose bun revealing her slender neck. I took a deep breath, puffed out my chest, and walked over dear wife. But my voice was so loud that half the banquet hall heard it. Everyone turned their heads, including Lu Thurjiao. I took the opportunity to wrap my arm around her waist and gave her a loud kiss on the cheek. "Sorry I'm late, the traffic was terrible." Lu Thurjiao's body clearly stiffened for a moment, but then she immediately relaxed. She said, "It's fine, dear." She actually didn't push me away. This is completely illogical. I decided to up the ante, grabbed a glass of champagne, and intentionally spoke loudly. "Ladies and gentlemen, I propose a toast to my beautiful wife." If it weren't for her, the Lu Group wouldn't have achieved what it has today. The high-level managers looked at each other but still raised their glasses. Lu Thurjiao's expression was a bit indescribable, as if she were suppressing a smile. "Mr. Kui is truly a model husband," a female manager mocked. "Of course. I tightened my arms around Luther Jiao. Every day, I make breakfast for Third Jiao. Text her to remind her to eat dinner and even give her massages. Luther Jiao suddenly coughed uncontrollably, her face turning red. So she finally couldn't take it anymore. General Manager Lu is truly blessed, another female colleague said with admiration. What is this? Shouldn't these people think of me as an annoying, clingy guy? Just then, a young girl in a low-cut dress stumbled over. Mr. Kui, can I buy you a drink? My eyes lit up. The opportunity has arrived. Flirting with a colleague right in front of Luther Jiao. Let's see if she can still stand it. Of course you can, beautiful lady. I took the glass and intentionally stood very close. What's your name? I'm T-Mai from the marketing department, the girl said, blushing. I've always admired you, Mr. Kui. I glanced smugly at Luther Jiao, but discovered she was talking to the CFO. And didn't even bother to look over her. Oh, Mr. Kui is so handsome. Oh, Mr. Kui is so handsome. T-Mai leaned in closer and closer, her breath brushing against my face. T-Mai leaned in closer and closer, her breath brushing against my face. She was much bolder than the men in the company. Only then did I realize she was drunk. Her whole body was practically clinging to me, and her hands were restlessly touching my chest. I panicked. I'm just acting, but I don't actually want to have an affair. T-Mai, you're drunk. I tried to push her away, but she clung to me like an octopus. Mr. Kui, take me home, okay? She whispered in my ear. My body froze, screaming inside. It's over, it's over. If she sees me, I'm dead meat. Luther Jiao will definitely kill me. 50 million, not even a single cent will I get. Need some help? A cold voice rang out from behind. I turned around. Luther Jiao was standing there, God knows since when. On her face was a dangerous smile. General Manager Lu. T-Mai immediately let go of me. Standing as straight as a pole. You're drunk, Luther Jiao said calmly. Here, the company will pay for a taxi, go home and rest. T-Mai, like a mouse seeing a cat, hurried to slip away. Standing there, cold sweat poured out. Luther Jiao, let me explain. No need to explain. Luther Jiao handed me a glass of juice. She continued, drink less alcohol. I dazedly accepted the glass. I completely didn't understand what was happening. This reaction was too normal. According to the script, shouldn't she have flown into a rage and made me ashamed in front of the crowd? General Manager Layak, a chubby middle-aged man, stepped forward. I heard the recent acquisition went very smoothly. Luther Jiao nodded, thanks to the efforts of the whole team. This must be your husband. The man looked me up and down. Indeed, a talent. I secretly rolled my eyes sycophant. Luther Jiao suddenly linked her arm with mine. That's right, my husband has given me many professional suggestions. Professional suggestions? Since when did I give her professional suggestions? This woman lies without blinking. After the party, Luther Jiao proactively suggested going home together. Sitting in a car, she closed her eyes to rest. I secretly observed her profile. Moonlight shone through the car window onto her face, drawing perfect lines. I suddenly realized her eyelashes were very long, like two small fans. Have you seen enough? Luther Jiao suddenly spoke, eyes still closed. I quickly looked away. Who's looking at you? I'm looking at the scenery outside the window. Luther Jiao chuckled softly and said nothing more. Arriving home, she went straight to the bedroom, stopping at the door. By the way, tomorrow is the weekend, let's play golf. I don't know how to play golf, I replied. I'll teach you. She closed the door, leaving me standing dazed in the hallway. Entering the living room, I texted Tran Hao. Plan B was a total failure. Luther Jiao didn't even care that I was flirting with a colleague. Tran Hao replied, my friend, I'm increasingly convinced she really likes you. I was fuming, angrily typing, she's just what? I couldn't think of a reason myself. Luther Jiao's recent behavior has been too unusual, completely inconsistent with her icy beauty image. Unless a ridiculous thought flashed through my mind. Unless she can hear my thoughts. Knowing I'm just acting, I shook my head to dispel that silly thought. Mind reading is too absurd. Tomorrow, going to play golf, I must find a way to make her take the initiative to demand a divorce. The next day, I wore the outfit she specified and went to the golf course with her. Whoosh, the golf ball flew like a bullet, drawing a perfect curve in the air. I accurately hit a rich guy on the adjacent course. Ah! A painful scream echoed across the golf course. I stood where I was, holding the golf club, my hand trembling. Damn it, I've caused a major disaster. Trin ba dat. Luther Jiao gritted her teeth and walked over, high heels sinking into the grass. You did it on purpose, didn't you? I'm innocent, I blinked. I told you I didn't know how to play golf. That is the chairman of the Ma Group. Luther Jiao lowered her voice. Do you know we are negotiating a partnership with them? I inwardly rolled my eyes. What does that have to do with me? But on the outside, I pretended to be concerned. Sorry, babe. Should I go and apologize to him? Luther Jiao took a deep breath and suddenly smiled. Fine, go ahead. This reaction isn't right. Shouldn't she be angry and canceled the date? I had to stubbornly walk over to the chairman, who was clutching his head. Sir, I am truly sorry. Are you CEO Lu's husband? He glared at me. Do you know this one swing almost sent me to the hospital? How about I buy you a drink? I forced a smile. He sneered. I've been sober for 20 years. I'm screwed. I flattered the wrong person. I turned back to look at Luther Jiao. She was leisurely sitting under a sunshade, sipping iced tea. Her expression was like she was watching a good play. And I had to sign a medical checkup bill. It cost a fortune to settle this matter. I sat there on the way back from the club. I was like a drenched dog with my head hung low. Having fun? Luther Jiao handed me a glass of lemonade. Very fun, I replied perfunctorily. Now you understand how bad it is to bring me along, right? Next time, just go by yourself. I find it very interesting. Luther Jiao interrupted me. We'll come back next weekend. I spat out a mouthful of water. What? Luther Jiao raised an eyebrow. What? Don't want to exercise with me? I was speechless. Did this woman take the wrong medicine? But normally, she shouldn't want to see me anymore. Back home, I slumped onto the sofa, reflecting on my life. The golf plan failed, the clingy plan failed, the philandering plan failed too. Lu Shujiao's endurance is truly beyond imagination. I have to use a stronger tactic, I mutter, taking out my phone to search how to be a terrible husband. The next morning, I intentionally slept until the sun was high. After going downstairs, Lu Shujiao had already left for work. On the dining table was a note: breakfast is in the microwave. I curled my lip and threw the breakfast straight into the trash. Then I began implementing the terrible husband plan. Step 1, throw dirty socks all over the house. Step 2, play games in the living room until 3 in the morning. Turn the volume all the way up. Step 3, order a bunch of junk food and pile the boxes on the coffee table. 4, use Lu Shujiao's high-end teacup as an ashtray, even though I don't smoke. 3 days later, the apartment had turned into a pigsty. I looked around smugly. This time, Lu Shujiao definitely won't be able to stand it. At 7 in the evening, the sound of the door unlocking rang out. I immediately assumed the most obnoxious posture, slouching on the sofa, clicking the REM controller noisily. Lu Shujiao walked in, her high heels stepping on a pizza box. Crunch. She looked around, her face surprisingly calm. Are you happy? She asked. Very happy. I said loudly on purpose. I'm much happier than when I go out with you. Lu Shujiao nodded and put down her briefcase. She started taking off her coat. Wait, why isn't she angry? Doesn't she see how messy the house is? I probed. It's a bit messy. Lu Shujiao bent down to pick up my dirty socks. But the maid will clean it tomorrow. My jaw almost hit the floor. Is that it? No screaming, no storming out? I'm tired. Going to shower, Lu Shujiao said, then headed straight upstairs, leaving me sitting dazed in the middle of the trash pile, questioning my life. The deterrence plan had failed. On Saturday morning, I slept until noon before waking up. Downstairs, I found the apartment spotless, not a speck of dust. My REM consoles were neatly arranged in the cabinet. The pile of food boxes had completely disappeared. Luther Jiao was sitting at the dining table working. In front of her was a cup of coffee. She didn't look very well. Her face was pale, eyes were red, and she coughed occasionally. Are you sick? I blurted out. Luther Jiao shook her head. It's nothing. I approached and saw beads of sweat on her forehead. Her lips were parched. She was clearly having a fever. Have you taken your temperature yet? I frowned. No time, Luther Jiao said without looking up. This report must be submitted by Monday. I grabbed her laptop. If you're sick, then rest. Luther Jiao finally looked up, with a sharp gaze. Give it back to me. No, I hid the laptop behind my back. Go upstairs and lie down. I'll go buy some medicine for you. No need. Luther Jiao stood up to grab the laptop, but she suddenly stumbled and almost fell. I quickly caught her. I touched her skin. The heat startled me. Good grief, you have such a high fever and you're still working? Let me go. Luther Jiao struggled, but she clearly had no strength left. Without a word, I picked her up in my arms. Luther Jiao was surprisingly light, lying in my arms like a weak kitten. You, quit about that, let me down. She resisted weakly. Be quiet, if you keep moving, I'll drop you. I carried her upstairs. Luther Jiao finally stopped struggling, probably out of energy. I placed her on the bed, tucking her in carefully. I searched everywhere for a thermometer. I know where it is. I rudely interrupted her, but actually, I knew nothing. Finally, I found the thermometer in the bathroom cabinet. 39.2 degrees Celsius. I swore under my breath and searched for the fever reducer. Take this. Luther Jiao shook her head. Taking it will make me sleepy. I still have work. What work? I was so angry that I raised my voice. Do you want to burn your brain out? Luther Jiao was stunned when I shouted at her. Then she obediently swallowed the pill. I poured a glass of warm water and handed it to her, my movements unexpectedly gentle. Go to sleep. I'm going out to buy some food. Luther Jiao had closed her eyes. Her long eyelashes cast a shadow on her pale face. I stood by the bed and watched for a while. Suddenly, I felt a strange feeling welling up in my heart. Going downstairs, I immediately called Tran Hao. Bull Tran, emergency situation. Luther Jiao has a high fever. Then let her call the doctor herself. She looks very serious. I bit my nails. What should I do? The other end was silent for a few seconds. Good about that. Do you really care about her? No, I immediately denied. I'm just afraid that if she dies, I won't get the 50 million. Tran Hao sneered. Then what's the point of calling and asking me? I was speechless. Why did I ask Tran Hao? Wouldn't it be easier to just let Luther Jiao fend for herself? Get lost. I angrily hung up, grabbed the keys, and went out. Now later, I returned home carrying a bunch of large and small bags. Fever medicine, porridge, fruit. There was even a bouquet of flowers. The shop assistant said, if the patient is in a good mood, they'll recover faster. So, I just picked up a bouquet. No, just that, no other meaning. I'm just afraid that if she dies, I won't get the 50 million. Sitting by the bed observing her. Luther Jiao, when she sheds her shell, as a strong woman, looks particularly fragile. Her eyebrows tightly knit, her cheeks abnormally red from high fever. I was as if possessed, reaching out to stroke the bangs on her forehead, but was startled by her burning temperature. I must apply physical cooling. I ran into the bathroom to wet a towel, gently placing it on her forehead. Luther Jiao, in her sleep, let out a comfortable sigh. For the next few hours, I was like a dedicated nurse, periodically changing the towel and measuring her temperature, feeding her water. Luther Jiao was drifting in and out of consciousness. Every time she woke up and saw me, she was very surprised, but quickly fell back asleep. Luther Jiao was drifting in and out of consciousness. Every time she woke up and saw me, she was very surprised, but quickly fell back into sleep. I must apply physical cooling. Luther Jiao, in her sleep, let out a comfortable sigh. For the next few hours, I was like a dedicated nurse, periodically changing the towel, measuring her temperature, and feeding water. 8 o'clock at night, her temperature finally dropped to 38 degrees. I breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did I realize I was so hungry my stomach was crawling. I was just about to go downstairs to find something to eat. Luther Jiao suddenly grabbed my wrists. Her voice was so weak it was almost inaudible. I froze. Luther Jiao was holding me back. I'll go get some food, I stammered. I'll be right back. MS. Luther Jiao seemed to understand and slowly let go. As if granted a pardon, I rushed downstairs, my heart thumping. Not right, totally not right. Why am I taking care of her? Why do I feel worried when I see her in pain? Why did I have such a strange feeling when she held my hand? I finished reheating the porridge and returned to the bedroom. Luther Jiao had woken up and was leaning against the headboard. She looked much more alert. Thank you, she said softly as she took the bowl of porridge. I let out a humph. Don't misunderstand, I was just afraid you'd die in front of me. The police would suspect me. Luther Jiao curled her lips slightly and murmured, yeah. She took small sips of the porridge. While I sat on the chair pretending to play on my phone, I was actually observing her secretly. Her complexion had improved. The fever reducer seemed to be taking effect. Have you been here the whole time? Luther Jiao suddenly asked. I shrugged. Where else? I thought you would take the opportunity to go out. Am I that kind of person? I rolled my eyes and added in my mind. Even though that was exactly what I planned to do. Luther Jiao suddenly laughed. Though weak, it was a sincere smile. Instead, we fell into a strange silence. Luther Jiao slowly finished the bowl of porridge. I set the bowl aside and checked her temperature again. 37.4 degrees, much better. The fever should be gone by tomorrow. Luther Jiao looked at me for a long time, then suddenly said, actually, you are very good at taking care of others. No, I'm not, I immediately denied. I just what? I didn't even know myself. But seeing her so weak and ill, I just couldn't stand by and do nothing. It's some rest, I said stiffly. I'll be in the next room. Call me if you need anything. I stood up to leave, but Luther Jiao unexpectedly said, hi bye dad, can you stay tonight? Her voice was very soft. I'm a little afraid of having nightmares. My eyes widened. Was Luther Jiao acting spoiled? This was even more terrifying than her having a high fever. Whatever you want, I stammered, pulling a chair to the bedside and sitting down. Get some rest. Luther Jiao nodded and closed her eyes. I sat in the darkness, listening to her steady breathing. My mood was as complex as a spilled palette of colors. Why did I stay? Why didn't I take the opportunity to demand a divorce? Why did my heart clench seeing her so weak? Moonlight stretched through the window, shining on Luther Zhao's sleeping face. Suddenly, I realized, just quietly watching her like this isn't so bad. Early morning sunlight pierced through the curtain gap into my eyes. I opened my eyes groggily. I found myself slumped by Luther Zhao's bed, in an extremely uncomfortable position. My neck was as sore as if it were sprained. Luther Zhao was awake, leaning against the headboard, holding a tablet, with her brow furrowed. Yes. Her complexion was much better, but her lips were still a bit pale. Are you feeling better? I rubbed my neck and sat up, my voice raspy from just waking up. Luther Zhao glanced at me. Yes. Classic Luther Zhao, answering with irritating brevity. I stood up and stretched, my bones cracking. I swear, did I really sleep all night on this hard chair? You should have gone to the guest room to sleep, Luther Zhao said without looking up. You think I wanted to sleep here? Who was the one pulling me and not letting go last night? Luther Zhao's fingers paused on the tablet. Her earlobes turned slightly red. I had a fever. I was talking nonsense. I was about to retort, but suddenly noticed the news headline on her tablet. Lu Group suspected of financial fraud. Stock plunges 15%. What is this? I moved closer to see more clearly. Luther Zhao quickly locked the screen and spoke. It's nothing. Company business. I saw the headline. Financial fraud. Is it true or fake? Of course, it's fake. Luther Zhao said coldly. Someone is intentionally short-selling. She pushed the blanket aside and got out of bed. Although her movements were steady, I still saw her lean lightly against the bedside table. You haven't recovered yet. Why force yourself? Where are you going? I stopped her. The company. Luther Zhao pushed my hand away. Now is not the time to rest. But you still have a fever, so what? Luther Zhao was already at the wardrobe picking out clothes. A 1% drop in the company's stock means losing tens of millions. I opened my mouth but couldn't find a reason to argue. It's true that with Luther Zhao's personality, even if she had to crawl, she would crawl to the company. Suit yourself. If you die, don't blame me. I turned toward the door. I said that, but once downstairs, I still rushed into the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I carried a cup of hot honey and 2 slices of toast, back to the bedroom. Eat up. I shoved the plate into Luther Zhao's hands. I don't want you fainting on the way. Luther Zhao was stunned as she took the plate and said, thank you. While she was eating, I secretly used my phone to check the news. The situation was more serious than I thought. There was an anonymous post accusing Lu Family Group of inflating profits, accompanied by so-called internal documents. Although it was obviously fake, the financial market was already in a panic. How do you plan to handle this? I asked. Luther Zhao fastened her last button, hold a press conference to clarify, and have the legal department prepare a lawsuit. That's too passive. I shook my head. With this kind of short selling, clarification alone isn't enough. You must find the person behind this, and simultaneously send a stronger signal to the market. Luther Zhao paused while tying her necktie, and looked at me in surprise. You understand these things? I responded with a question. Didn't you say I'm a business analysis genius? So, what are your suggestions? Luther Zhao's voice rarely carried a hint of seeking an opinion. I thought for a few seconds. First, immediately announce a major investment or acquisition, to demonstrate the company's financial strength. First, immediately announce a major investment or acquisition, to demonstrate the company's financial strength. Second, find several influential partners to stand up and support us. Most importantly, find out who has been short-selling your stock recently. Luther Zhao nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. She picked up the phone and called Bitch Fan Vao. Notify the senior managers of a meeting at 9 o'clock. Also, contact Director Vuong and Chairman Tran. Invite them to lunch. After hanging up, Luther Zhao looked at me. Are you coming with me? I pointed at my nose. To your company? Don't you understand business analysis? Luther Zhao grabbed her briefcase. Come as an advisor. I intended to refuse, but seeing her pale complexion, I found myself nodding. All right then. I'm free today anyway. Half an hour later, we arrived at the Lu Group headquarters. As soon as I entered the lobby, I could feel the tense atmosphere. Employees were rushing back and forth, whispering to each other. When they saw Luther Zhao, everyone looked anxious. In the elevator, Luther Zhao suddenly stumbled. I quickly reached out to support her. No, I'm fine. Luther Zhao pushed me away. Her fingers gripped her briefcase until they turned white. In the meeting room, the senior managers were all seated. When they saw Luther Zhao enter, they all stood up. President Lu. Luther Zhao went straight to the head of the table. Everyone knows the situation. Now, let's discuss the handling plan. For the next 2 hours, I sat in the corner of the room, quietly watching Luther Zhao manage everything. Although her face was still pale, her mind was extremely sharp. The instructions were given clearly and coherently. Although her face was still pale, her mind was extremely sharp. The instructions were given clearly and coherently. I couldn't help but feel a bit of admiration for her. I think we should stabilize the major shareholders first. A slick-looking guy spoke up. I recognized him as Bitch Fan Phao. Especially the Tan family, they hold 15% of the shares. If they sell off, the Tan family will not sell. Luther Jiao interrupted. Bitch Van Thel's expression wasn't good, but he continued. But Tan Van has always been pursuing you. Now the news of your marriage has been made public. That is my private matter. Luther Jiao coldly said. Next topic. I silently whistled in my heart. Oh. It turns out Luther Jiao has a suitor. A tycoon who holds 15% of the shares at that. Seeing that vice president bitch was right, a female manager spoke up. We should take a two-pronged approach, both clarifying the rumors and finding a heavyweight partner to stand and support us. For example, the Holatin Group. They are expanding their foreign markets. Very suitable for our operations. I couldn't help but laugh. The whole meeting room looked at me at once. Sorry, I raised my hand, but Holatin's capital chain is about to break partnering with them. Isn't that suicide? From the financial news. The whole room was deathly silent. Luther Jiao narrowed her eyes. How do you know Holatin has capital chain issues? I realized I slipped up but had to answer. From the financial news. Which financial newspaper? Luther Jiao pressed. I don't remember clearly. I looked away and prevaricated. I just have that impression. Luther Jiao looked at me for a moment, mused, and then turned to everyone. Mr. Kui is right. Holatin is not a good choice. Are there any other opinions? Yes. After the meeting, most people left. Only a few core managers stayed to discuss details. Luther Jiao called me aside. Is what you said about Holatin true? I nodded. Yeah. Last year, they had a failed investment in Southeast Asia. Now they survive on short-term loans. How do you know these things? Luther Jiao's sharp eyes seemed to want to pierce through my lies. I sighed. All right. I occasionally help friends with business analysis, like a freelancer. What friends? A few investment organizations. I was fake, helping them analyze financial reports and things. Luther Jiao was about to ask more, but Bitch Van Thao stepped forward. CEO Lu, the press conference has been arranged for 3:00 p.m. Very well. Luther Jiao nodded and then looked at me again. You are coming to the press conference with me. Me, I widened my eyes. What am I going for? You are my husband. At this time, we naturally must appear together, to send a signal of family stability to the market. Luther Jiao's voice left no room for objection. I intended to refuse, but seeing her tired eyes, I swallowed my words. Fine, I'll help you until the end. At the press conference, Luther Jiao's assistant rushed over. CEO Lu. We found some clues. The short seller is a foreign hedge fund, but there may be domestic capital manipulating from behind. Find out who it is. The assistant hesitated. There are signs it might be the Tan family. Luther Jiao's face instantly turned pale. Standing nearby, I heard it clearly in my heart saying, it seems that suitor Tan Fan is not a good person after all. During the press conference, Luther Jiao performed perfectly. She calmly refuted the allegations of financial fraud, while simultaneously announcing a new energy project in partnership with a state-owned enterprise. Reporters asked about our marriage, but she even took the initiative to hold my hand. Offering a rare smile, my husband has supported me a lot. Camera flashes went off continuously. I cooperated by putting my arm around her waist, thinking to myself what a great performance. Even I almost believed it. On the way back to the office, Luther Jiao's footsteps were clearly unsteady. I quickly supported her. That's enough. You need to rest. There's one more meeting. Luther Jiao weakly protested. I said firmly, half pulling, half carrying her into the office lounge. Luther Jiao did not resist and collapsed onto the bed. I touched her forehead. She had a fever again. Damn it. Take some fever reducer. Luther Jiao immediately swallowed the medicine and closed her eyes. Sitting by the bed, looking at her tightly furrowed brows, I couldn't help but reach out and gently smooth them. Why help me? Luther Jiao suddenly asked. Eyes still closed. I was startled. Huh? Today, she whispered. You could have just ignored me. I shrugged, knowing she couldn't see, just felt like it. Luther Jiao slightly curled her lips. Liar. Hey, I'm being nice here. Luther Jiao interrupted. Thank you. I was speechless. Luther Jiao actually said thank you. The sun must be rising from the west. After resting for a bit, Luther Jiao insisted on going home. In the car, she leaned against the window and closed her eyes to rest. I secretly searched for information about the Lu Corp on my phone. The more I looked, the more I saw this short selling wasn't simple. Professional tactics, perfect timing. Clearly, there's an insider involved. Who do you think it is? Luther Jiao suddenly asked. I hesitated. There's a high probability of an insider. Luther Jiao nodded. I think so too. The most suspicious person is Bitch Van Thao. Both she and I said the name in unison. Then we looked at each other, both slightly surprised. Luther Jiao looked away first. He has always wanted to replace me. This crisis is a good opportunity for him. Do you need me to help with anything? As soon as I said it, I immediately regretted. Why did I take the initiative to offer? Luther Jiao looked at me in surprise. You know how to handle these things. I know a little bit. I glossed over it, saying I had helped friends with similar work before. Lu Thurjiao nodded thoughtfully. All right. Returning home, Lu Thurjiao took her medicine and went to bed. I opened the computer and started tracing the hedge fund shorting the Lu Corporation. It turned out I hadn't completely forgotten the hacking skills I learned from friends. A few hours later, I found some clues. 1 or 2 in the morning, I was staring at the cash flow chart on the screen. Lost in thought, a cup of hot milk suddenly appeared in front of me. You're not asleep yet. Lu Thurjiao stood behind me and asked. She was wearing a nightgown. Her hair was down, looking much gentler than during the day. I found something. I took the milk and pointed at the screen. Look at this cash flow circling through several offshore companies, but it finally leads to Tan Than. Lu Thurjiao said coldly. I knew it. I looked at her in surprise. How did you know? I guessed. Lu Thurjiao sat down beside me. He has always wanted to control the Lu Corporation. Pursuing me was just a tactic. Oh, I whistled. So this time it's a case of if I can't have it, I'll destroy it. Something like that, Lu Thurjiao said, looking at the screen. But this evidence isn't solid enough. I yawned. I can dig deeper, but let's save it for tomorrow. Lu Thurjiao suddenly reached out and touched my face. You look very tired. But this sudden intimate action made me freeze. She was cool, but it felt as hot as fire. It's fine. Go to sleep. You haven't recovered from your illness yet. Lu Thurjiao withdrew her hand and stood up. You should also rest early. At the door, she turned back. By the way, come with me to a family dinner tomorrow. My parents want to meet you. My parents? My eyes widened. Wait, didn't we agree not to meet the parents? But my parents found out I got married, so they flew straight here. But, Lu Thurjiao smiled slightly. So I need you to cooperate in a play. I have a bad feeling. What play? The play of an affectionate couple. Lu Thurjiao finished speaking and left, leaving me dazed in front of the computer screen. An affectionate couple with this ice beauty, and in front of her parents, too. Then divorce will be even harder. No way, this might be an opportunity. As long as I make Lu Thurjiao's parents hate me, the divorce process might be much easier. I excitedly laid down on the bed, thinking of a plan for tomorrow, then gradually falling asleep. The next morning, right after breakfast, Lu Thurjiao urged me to change. Are you sure you want to wear this? I intentionally shook the green shirt mixed with red in a disastrous palm tree print. What's wrong? It's perfect for meeting parents. My parents like steady people. Lu Thurjiao said indifferently. What coincidence, I happen to be the least steady type. I smirked and quickly put on the floral shirt. Then paired it with a pair of crumpled khaki pants. How about this? Do I look like a jobless parasite? Lu Thurjiao observed me from head to toe. The corner of her mouth suddenly twitched. Up to you. This reaction is not right. But shouldn't she be angry and order me to change? Let's go. It's late. Miss Jiao said, then turned to head downstairs. Her high heels clacked on the floor. I hurriedly followed and asked. Hey, do your parents know we're in a contract marriage? I don't know, Lu Thurjiao said without turning back. They think we're really in love. What? I almost tumbled down the stairs. I lied to them. Lu Thurjiao stopped at the foot of the stairs and looked up at me. Is there a problem? Of course there is. I rushed down 2 steps at a time. What if we get exposed? Then don't let it show. Lu Thurjiao handed me a gift bag. This is tea from my father. Remember to say you specially bought it from Hangzhou. I stared at the exquisitely packaged gift box. When did I buy this? And this is a pearl necklace for my mother. Say you picked it out in Japan last month. Lu Thurjiao didn't give me a chance to continue. My father likes to talk about politics. Don't talk back. My mother will ask about children. Just say we'll let it happen naturally. Remember? I stood there with my mouth open like an idiot. Does this woman treat me like a child? Ba T, help me this time. When we divorce, I'll give you another 10 million. My breath hitched. 60 million. 60 million? It's a deal. I immediately changed my expression and gave a flattering smile. Dear wife, my parents-in-law will surely like me. Lu Thurjiao rolled her eyes and turned to walk out. Now I followed closely behind her. In my mind, I started calculating how to spend the 60 million. In the car, while fastening my seatbelt, I asked. Hey, why don't you tell your parents the truth? Lu Thurjiao's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. They're very traditional. They won't accept a contract marriage. I nodded, then an idea suddenly flashed in my mind. That's not right, that's not right. How did I get tricked by her into this marriage trap? Because I'm the one who wants a divorce. If we don't get a divorce, even with another 10 million, I won't get a cent. I have to make her parents hate me. I think if they see their son-in-law as a useless guy, they will definitely advise her to get a divorce. At that time, 50 million will be enough. Lu Thurjiao slammed on the brakes. I almost hit my head on the windshield. What are you doing? Red light, Lu Thurjiao said expressionlessly. I clearly saw the corner of her mouth twitching. How strange, is she holding back a laugh? In my head, I continued my genius plan. Later, I'll act rude and disrespectful, eating noisily, bossing her around, and then arguing with her father. Just then, Luther Zhao said softly, "Watch your behavior. If you perform poorly, and make my parents advise me to divorce, the 60 million will be gone." My eyes suddenly widened. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm encouraging you," Luther Zhao corrected. "A good performance earns a reward." I leaned back in the seat, annoyed. In my heart, I cursed Luther Zhao out. What kind of mind reading is this? I must be hallucinating. She's clearly a calculating capitalist. Luther Zhao's parents lived in a suburban villa area. As soon as the car stopped, a well-dressed middle-aged couple came out to meet us. Mother Lu is very well preserved. She looks at least 10 years younger than her real age. Father Lu is solemn, the perfect image of a retired official. I got out of the car, flashing a rare smile at them. "This is Xiao Kui, right?" Lu's mother hugged her daughter, then turned to look at me. "Hello, sir and ma'am. This is some tea and a necklace I prepared for you both. It's not much, I hope you will accept it." Lu's mother smiled broadly. This child is so thoughtful. Lu's father took the tea box and nodded seriously. "Hangzhou Longjing tea, not bad." I stole a glance at Luther Zhao. She was looking at me with a slight smile. Inside, Lu's mother pulled me aside to ask all sorts of things. "Little Kui, how did you two meet?" I was flustered, but Luther Zhao naturally spoke up. "At a business forum." At that time, he was a guest analyst. I looked at her in surprise. How could she lay so smoothly, really? Lu's father was interested. "You understand economics?" "I know a little bit," I replied modestly. "What do you think about the stock market lately?" Lu's father asked suddenly. "Dad, let's eat, don't talk about work." Luther Zhao quickly intervened, probably afraid I'd talk nonsense. The meal was surprisingly feast-like. It was all homemade food prepared by Lu's mother. I tasted a piece of braised pork and almost cried with emotion. It was 10,000 times better than the nutritionally calculated meals from Luther Zhao. "Is it good?" Lu's mother asked expectantly. "It's delicious." I sincerely praised her. "Your cooking is truly amazing." Lu's mother smiled brightly and kept serving me more food. I ate until I lost track of time, completely forgetting my plan for a poor performance. "Kui," Lu's father suddenly spoke. "I heard you were a freelancer." Oh no, the killer question has arrived. I put down my chopsticks, bracing for the storm. "Yes, that's right," I replied honestly. "Mainly writing analysis reports for investment firms." "Lu's father, is your income stable?" Lu's father's question hit me right in my weak spot. I started to break out in a sweat. According to the script, I should be bragging about how capable I am now, but I suddenly told the truth. "It's not very stable, sir. Competition is fierce these days. Sometimes I don't get a single contract for a whole month." Luther Zhao gave me a kick under the table. This time was clearly much harder. I winced in pain but continued. "But things have been better lately." Luther Zhao introduced me to a few regular clients. Lu's father's expression softened. "Luther Zhao said you're talented. You flatter me, sir." Actually, after graduating from university, I let myself go for a while. It wasn't until I met Luther Zhao that I returned to my profession. This sentence was half true, half false, but it came out surprisingly smoothly. Luther Zhao looked at me in surprise, seemingly not expecting me to say that. "It's normal for young people to have ups and downs." Lu's father suddenly laughed. "The important thing is not to give up." After lunch, Lu's father pulled me into the study to play Sinki. I played chess terribly, but surprisingly, I hit it off with him in conversation. From the economy to political history. I discovered this retired official was actually very knowledgeable. "Xiao Gui." By the third round, Lu's father suddenly said, "Luther Zhao has been very strong-willed since she was a child. She keeps everything to herself. But I can clearly see that since being with you, the girl smiles much more." My hand trembled as I placed the rook in the wrong spot. "Is that so?" During the last Roman 6-0 call, she was laughing. Her mother, and I haven't seen her laugh like that in years. I suddenly felt an ache in my heart. But Luther Zhao is clearly always cold when she's with me. But wait, could it be she secretly smiles behind my back, General? Lu's father suddenly spoke. "I just realized my king had been checkmated." I lost. Lu's father cleared the chessboard and asked, "You're unfocused. Are you thinking about Luther Zhao?" "No, I'm not." I hurriedly denied it, my ears burning for some unknown reason. Back in the living room, Luther Zhao and Mother Lu were looking at a photo album. I leaned in and saw a photo of a little girl in a ballet dress. "This is Luther Zhao at 6 years old," Mother Lu said with a smile. The first time she went on stage, she was so nervous her limbs got all mixed up. Luther Zhao rarely blushed, but she was now. I couldn't help but laugh. "Is that true? Even CEO Lu has moments where her limbs get mixed up." Luther Zhao glared at me, but her eyes sparkled with a rare look of comfort. The sunlight through the window shone on her face. In that moment, she looked extraordinarily vibrant, completely different from the cold iron lady in the office. I suddenly realized this was the first time I saw the real Luther Zhao. Not the contract wife, not the CEO of Lu Group, but just an ordinary girl who would get shy in front of her parents. On the way back, the car was unusually quiet. I stole a glance at Luther Jiao's profile. Recalling her father's words, an indescribable feeling rose in my heart. Thank you for today. Luther Jiao suddenly broke the silence. I hadn't even reacted yet. My parents haven't been this happy in a long time. Luther Jiao's voice was very soft, especially seeing you finish all the food my mother cooked. I scratched my head. The braised pork was truly delicious. When we arrived, Luther Jiao suddenly pulled over and turned to me. You performed very well today. Is there a reward? No. Luther Jiao looked straight into my eyes. Weren't you planning to act like a useless parasite? Why did you change your mind? I was speechless. That's right. Why? I clearly could have made her parents hate me. But because your parents are truly kind, I finally said. Besides, 60 million is also very tempting. Luther Jiao looked at me for a few seconds. Suddenly she smiled. Liar. Put on your seatbelt. She started the car and drove home. The words going home from Luther Jiao's mouth wrought a strangely warm feeling. That night, lying on the sofa bed in the living room, I recalled everything that happened today. It all left my mind in a tangled mess. Suddenly, the phone vibrated. A message from Tran Hao. Hey buddy, how's the plan going? Has Luther Jiao asked for a divorce yet? I looked at the screen, suddenly not knowing how to reply. The once clear plan was now a complete mess. What do I really want? 50 million, freedom, or? I finally replied not yet and turned off the phone. The next morning, I slept until I woke up on my own. When I went downstairs, Luther Jiao had already gone to work. There was a note on the dining table. The braised pork Mom sent for you is in the fridge. I opened the fridge and saw a container labeled for Xiao Gui. A wave of warmth involuntarily welled up in my heart. While heating the meat in the microwave, I turned on the news. A financial channel was reporting on the Lu Group. The stock has recovered to the level before the short selling. It is reported that CEO Luther Jiao is about to announce a major partnership. The screen switched to Luther Jiao at the press conference, wearing a sharp business suit. She confidently answered the reporter's questions. Seeing her radiant on the screen, I suddenly realized how great the distance between us was. The ding of the microwave interrupted my train of thought. I took out the braised meat. The aroma was fragrant, but my heart was suddenly in turmoil. The phone vibrated again. This time it was a message from Luther Jiao. Are you free tonight? I'm inviting you to dinner. I stared at the message, as if seeing an alien creature. Luther Jiao took the initiative to invite me to dinner. Is the sun rising from the west? What's up? I replied. Thank you for yesterday. My parents really like you. Looking at the message, I felt my heart in a mess. Their liking is just an illusion, a role of a good son and while I'm temporarily playing. If they knew the truth. The phone vibrated again. 6 o'clock, Chuang Fo restaurant. Don't be late, a typical command from Luther Jiao. I shook my head, replied with a single word okay, then put the phone down. I went to the window and looked at the sunlight outside. Suddenly, I really wanted to know. If that contract didn't exist, what would it be like if we were a real couple? But this thought startled me. I shook my head to banish it from my mind. Don't be stupid, Kai Ba Dat. Don't forget your 50 million. No, now it's 60 million. But why is it that thinking about 60 million no longer makes my heart race like before? Chuang Fo restaurant is the most expensive Cantonese restaurant in the city. Word has it that one meal could cost an ordinary person's entire month's salary. I stood in front of the door, tugging at my only decent navy blue suit. Feeling uncomfortable all over. Sir, do you have a reservation? The waiter asked politely. Luther Jiao booked a table, I said softly. The waiter's expression immediately became more respectful. So you are CEO Lu's guest. Please follow me. He led me through the magnificent hall, to a semi-private room. Luther Jiao had arrived and was looking down at some documents. Today she wore a dark blue dress, her hair in a loose bun revealing her long, slender neck. Under the soft light, she was as beautiful as an oil painting. You're here, Luther Jiao said without looking up. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and asked if her parents were well. Very well. My mother even asked when we could invite you for dinner again. They're very well. Luther Jiao folded the documents and finally looked up at me. Order something. I flipped through the menu and was startled by the prices, taking a sharp breath. A single dish cost 4 figures. Is this a robbery? You order. I'm not up for this. I hurriedly closed the menu and pushed it toward her. Luther Jiao raised an eyebrow. Last time at the Japanese restaurant, you ordered quite professionally. That was Japanese food. This is different. I gave a dry laugh. Luther Jiao didn't say anything more. She quickly ordered a few signature dishes. After the staff left, the private room fell into an awkward silence. So, I scratched my head. Why did you invite me to dinner today? Luther Jiao took a sip of tea and said, I already told you. To thank you for yesterday. Forget it, I interrupted her. Let's not be so cheesy with each other. What's really going on? Luther Jiao put down her teacup and looked me straight in the eye. Tan Fan has returned. I was stunned for a moment. The guy who used to pursue you, I see. Luther Jiao's expression became serious. This morning, he contacted me wanting to discuss a partnership. Partnership? I frowned. He almost stabbed you in the back. There's no direct evidence proving it was him. Furthermore, in business, there are no permanent enemies. Luther Jiao said calmly. I scoffed. So he almost ruined your company. And now he comes smiling to discuss cooperation. This is exactly what I wanted to discuss with you. Luther Jiao's voice deepened. He asked me out for a private dinner tomorrow night. My fingers unconsciously tightened around the napkin. Private? Yes, Luther Jiao observed my reaction. Do you think I should go? No, up to you. I forced myself to relax. Anyway, we're just in a contractual relationship. You can see whoever you want. Luther Jiao narrowed her eyes. Really? Of course. I spread my arms exaggeratedly. I'm not the petty husband type. Fine then, I'll go, Luther Jiao said decisively. I suddenly felt as if a ball of cotton was stuffed in my chest, suffocating and uncomfortable. Just then, the waiter brought the dishes, temporarily easing the awkwardness. Mechanically eating, I couldn't taste a thing. By the way, Luther Jiao said suddenly. There's a charity auction tomorrow night. Go in my place. Me, I widened my eyes. Way me. Aren't you eating Tan Fan? I remember, Luther Jiao said calmly. Setting down my chopsticks, I asked, what are you planning? Nothing. Luther Jiao wiped the corner of her mouth and said, I just think you should participate in more social events. After all, you are my husband now. At least in the public eye. Her voice suddenly turned sharp. And I don't want to hear anyone else saying you're a guy, living off of me anymore. I stood up abruptly, the chair screeching against the floor. Who said that? Many people. She looked at me calmly. Since the day we got married, this gossip has never stopped. I felt like I was hit by a sledgehammer. Even though I always pretended not to care. Hearing this from Luther Jiao's mouth still felt heartbreaking. I'm going to the restroom. I turned and left the room. I needed some space to calm down. In a restroom, I splashed cold water on my face several times, looking at myself in the mirror. For the past 2 years, I have always played the role of Luther Jiao's contract husband, attending all kinds of events, enduring the contemptuous looks of the wealthy. But I never thought about what kind of pressure Luther Jiao also had to endure. Returning to the private room, Luther Jiao was on the phone. Seeing me enter, she spoke briefly. See you tomorrow. Then she hung up and turned to me. I asked Luther Jiao. Luther Jiao nodded. He changed his mind and wants to meet at the charity auction. I clenched my fists. So now I don't need to go anymore. You still have to go. Luther Jiao's gaze became complex. He wants both of us to appear together. I gave a cold laugh. How generous of him. Luther Jiao suddenly placed her hand on mine. If you don't want to, I'll go alone. If you don't want to, I'll go alone. I'll go, I interrupted her. Of course I'm going. How could I miss the chance to meet your old pursuer? Luther Jiao frowned, but said nothing. We finished the rest of the food in silence. The atmosphere was as heavy as Li. Arriving home, Luther Jiao went straight to the study. I sat on the living room sofa, searching for information about Tan Fan on my phone. The screen immediately displayed a series of news. Business genius Tan Fan returns to the country. The heir to the Tan Group makes his mark with an overseas acquisition. The Diamond King Tan Fan already has someone in his heart. The last 2 tabloids included a photo of Luther Jiao and Tan Fan from many years ago. In a photo, Luther Jiao was younger, wearing a socialite dress, standing next to the tall and handsome Tan Fan. The two looked dazzlingly well matched. I turned off my phone, feeling a stinging pain like being stabbed. Is this the man who is worthy of Luther Jiao, a business elite, a favorite of a noble family, not a guy who can't even get a decent job like me? The next evening, I put on the suit Luther Jiao specified and stood before the mirror to adjust my tie. The man in the mirror looked the part, but I knew it was just a facade. Take off these designer clothes, and I'm nothing. Ready, Luther Jiao appeared at the door. Wearing a backless long dress, her hair in a high bun revealing a perfect shoulder and neckline. The diamond necklace on her neck sparkled. I nodded stiffly. In the car, Luther Jiao constantly reviewed documents, while I watched the streets flash by outside the window. My heart heavy like a stone. Luther Jiao suddenly closed her folder and said, Tonight, no matter what Tan Fan says, don't be impulsive. I gave a cold laugh. Are you afraid I'll embarrass you? I'm afraid you'll suffer, Luther Jiao frowned. Tan Fan is not an easy opponent to deal with. Thanks for the concern, I said bitterly, but I can handle myself. Lu Thurjiao sighed and said nothing more. The charity auction took place on the rooftop of the Peninsula Hotel. The elevator doors opened. I was overwhelmed by the luxury before me. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, and big shot figures dressed magnificently. This was absolutely not my world. General Manager Lu. I turned around to see a tall man, walking over handsomely in a tailored suit, his gestures exuding the elegance of the upper class. This was Tan Fan, even more striking than in his photos. General Manager Tan. Lu Thurjiao nodded politely. Tan Fan ignored me and took Lu Thurjiao's hand. Long time no see, you're getting more beautiful every day. Lu Thurjiao skillfully withdrew her hand and thanked him. This is my husband, Quid Dat. Only then did Tan Fan look at me. His gaze was full of contempt, as if looking at a fly. I've heard much about General Manager Lu's husband. He emphasized the word husband, pausing a few people nearby to giggle. General Manager Can, it's a pleasure. I reached out my hand. I've heard of you too. Tan Fan gave me a perfunctory handshake and immediately turned back to Lu Thurjiao. Thurjiao, I have some friends who want to meet you regarding the collaboration project. Lu Thurjiao hesitated and glanced at me. Go walk around on your own first, okay? Of course, I forced a smile. You two go ahead. Watching the backs of Lu Thurjiao and Tan Fan as they left, I clenched my fists. This is the life Lu Thurjiao belongs to. She wants to be with an elite like Tan Fan, talking and laughing about billion-dollar deals. Not with a useless man like me. Picking up a glass of champagne, I wandered the edges of the hall. Occasionally, people would look at me curiously and whisper. I didn't need to hear it to know what they were saying. That's the man who lives off Lu Thurjiao. I heard he just idles around all day. I don't know what General Manager Lu sees in him. Glass after glass, I drank a bit too much. It helped make the murmurs fade. But it also made my self-esteem more sensitive. Quay, an unfamiliar voice called out. I looked up to see a flashy man standing in front of me. Bitch Fan Thao, Deputy Manager of Lu Shujiao. Deputy Manager Bitch. I nodded. You stay alert. Drinking alone? Bitch Van Thao pretended to care. Where's General Manager Lu? Discussing business, I replied briefly. Right before Tan Fan. Bitch Van Thao smiled meaningfully. They are old friends. Right before. They almost what? I narrowed my eyes. Nothing. Bitch Van Thao pretended it was a slip of the tongue. I heard that recently. You've been helping General Manager Lu analyze data. He was alert. How do you know? There are no secrets in the company. Bitch Van Thao took a sip of wine. I advise you not to get too deeply involved. Because once General Manager Lu collaborates with Tan Fan, the company structure will change significantly. What? Take it literally. Bitch Van Thao lowered his voice. Tan Fan has always had his eye on Lu Core, and he still has feelings for General Manager Liu. You understand, right? I stood up abruptly. What are you trying to say? Don't get excited. Bitch Fan Thao took a step back. I'm just kindly reminding you. When they reunite, the contract husband should withdraw, right? My blood froze. You know, I'm just guessing. Bitch Van Thao smiled triumphantly. How could General Manager Lu actually like you? I didn't let him finish and turned to walk away. My heart was pounding. How did Bitch Van Thao know our secret? Did Lu Shujiao tell him? Was our relationship so obvious that everyone knows? In the middle of the hall, the auctioneer was introducing a piece of jewelry. From afar, I saw Lu Shujiao and Tan Fan sitting in the front row. Tan Fan intimately placed his arm on the back of Lu Shujiao's chair, whispering something in her ear. I couldn't see Lu Shujiao's expression clearly, but she didn't move away. My chest throbbed with pain. I put down the wine glass and quietly left the hall. The night breeze blew against my burning face. Only then did I realize I had shed tears. I'm so ridiculous, being jealous over a contract wife, heartbroken over a woman who never belonged to me. My chest throbbed. I put down the wine glass and quietly left the hall. The night breeze blew against my burning face. Only then did I realize I had shed tears. Arriving back at the villa, I went straight to the living room and started packing my bags. This 2-year play should come to an end. Arriving back at the villa, I went straight to the living room and started packing my bags. Lu Shujiao doesn't need a burden like me, and I don't want to continue a life of humiliating myself anymore. 50 million, 60 million, to hell with it all. There are things much more important than money. In the closet, the designer suits Lu Shujiao bought for me. I didn't take any of them, only bringing my old clothes and my laptop. Finally, looking around the room I never truly belonged to, I softly closed the door. In the living room, I left a no contract terminated. I wish you happiness. 6 simple words, but they took all my strength. Setting the keys down, I pulled my suitcase to the door. Right then, the sound of the door lock rang out. Lu Shujiao stood at the threshold, face pale. Where are you going? Lu Shujiao's voice was like a knife, cutting through the silence of the living room. She stood at the door, high heels still on, hands clutching the car keys. her chest heaving violently. I froze, the handle of the suitcase digging into my palm. I'm going for some fresh air, I said, going for a walk with a suitcase. Lu Shujiao sneered coldly. Her eyes stopped on the piece of paper in my hand. What's this? I subconsciously crumpled the paper. It's nothing. Lu Thurjiao walked quickly over, snatched the paper, and opened it. She glanced over the 6 words, her expression becoming more and more unpleasant. What does this mean? She looked up, glaring at me, her voice trembling slightly. It means exactly what is written. I looked away. The contract is terminated. You are free now. I don't agree. Lu Thurjiao tore the piece of paper into shreds. We signed a contract. Then just consider that I breached the contract. I smiled bitterly. Just deduct the penalty from my 50 million. Toiche ba dat. Lu Thurjiao suddenly raised her voice. What are you going crazy for? I'm going crazy. I couldn't help but roar. Watching you and Tan Fan being intimate. I still have to pretend like nothing is wrong. Hearing everyone mock me as a man who lives off a woman, I still have to smile brightly and greet him. Lu Thurjiao's eyes widened. You care about those nonsense words? I yanked my tie off. What man wouldn't care? But you always act like it's a contract requirement. Right? Well, now I can't act anymore. Lu Thurjiao's face turned pale. Is it because of Tan Fan? Not just him. I took a deep breath. Bitch Fan Fan knows our secret. He told me that when you and Tan Fan get back together, I, the contract husband, should withdraw. Lu Thurjiao's pupils constricted. How does he know? You're asking me? I wanted to ask if you told him. I laughed coldly. Of course not. Lu Thurjiao said sharply. How could I? Whatever, it's not important. I waved my hand tiredly. It had to end anyway. Better to leave now, at least I can keep some self-respect. It had to end anyway. Better to leave now, at least I can keep some self-respect. What's wrong? I'm laughing because he almost brought your company down. I'm leaving. Lu Thurjiao, there are no permanent enemies in business. You said it yourself, but that's not why. Lu Thurjiao's voice suddenly became very soft. It's because I already have someone I like. My heart skipped a beat. Who? But Lu Thurjiao didn't answer and let go of my hand. She went to the liquor cabinet and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. She handed me a glass. Then she tipped her head back and drained hers. Kai ba dad. Her voice was raspy from the alcohol. If I told you a secret, would you promise not to run away? Looking at her wearily. What secret? Promise first. Fine, I promise. Lu Thurjiao took a deep breath as if gathering all her courage. I can hear your thoughts. I froze for a sec and then burst out laughing. Huh? You can hear what I'm thinking. Lu Thurjiao said each word slowly. The day we were preparing to divorce, I suddenly heard your thoughts. I suddenly heard your thoughts. I looked at her, trying to find any trace of a joke, but Lu Thurjiao's expression was frighteningly serious. You're crazy. I took a step back. Mind reading? You think you're in a sci-fi movie? Last Wednesday, early in the morning, you were internally cursing me as a control freak, obsessive-compulsive, and ice face, Lu Thurjiao said calmly. Yesterday afternoon, when you saw me talking to Tan Fan, you thought to yourself that they looked like a perfect match. My blood felt like it froze. But those were things I actually thought. Yet I never said them out loud. There's more, Lu Thurjiao continued. At the golf course, you intentionally hit Chairman Ma and cheered in your head. This time she'll definitely be furious. Just as the wine in my hand crashed to the floor, whiskey splashing everywhere. No way. Absolutely impossible. Prove it. My voice trembled. If what you say is true, what am I thinking now? Lu Shujiao looked straight into my eyes and said slowly, you're thinking, if this is true, then, when you were in the bathroom looking at her photo, you... My face flushed as I interrupted her. Enough. I believe you. God, this is so embarrassing. My mind went completely blank. Lu Shujiao's lip curled slightly. Believe me now. I collapsed onto the sofa, covering my face with both hands. So for the past 2 months, you've heard every thought of mine, Nat. Even the times I cursed you, yeah. Even the dirty thoughts. Especially those. Lu Shujiao's voice carried a hint of a smile. I groaned, wishing I could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. So humiliating. I've never been this embarrassed in my life. Lu Shujiao's lip curled slightly. Believe me now. I collapsed onto the sofa, covering my face with both hands. So for the past 2 months, you've heard every thought of mine? Yeah, even the times I cursed you, yeah. Even the dirty thoughts. Wait, I suddenly realized. So you knew all along I wanted a divorce for the 50 million? Lu Shujiao nodded. I knew from the very first day. Then why didn't you expose me? Because, Lu Shujiao hesitated for once. At first, I found it amusing. And then, what happened after that? Then I discovered you're not as shallow as you look, Lu Shujiao said softly. Your parents would worry when I was sick. You would show your best side before my parents and step up to help when my company faced a crisis. I was speechless. It turns out she knew everything, saw everything. I struggled to find my voice. You kept me around because I like you. Luther Jiao looked straight into my eyes. It wasn't the contractual kind of like, but for real. My heart felt like it was hit by a sledgehammer, pounding hard. Luther Jiao likes me. The ice beauty, Luther Jiao, the arrogant CEO of Lu Corporation, likes me. Are you joking? I stammered. Me, the jobless guy with nothing to do. How is that possible? You're not a useless person, Luther Jiao interrupted. You're just used to hiding yourself. Actually, you're smarter than most people, and kinder than most people. I opened my mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Who had ever judged me like that before? Not even my parents. Furthermore, Luther Jiao added, I can hear all your thoughts, both good and bad. But I still love the real you. These words were like a key swinging open the door of my tightly locked heart. I suddenly realized why seeing her with Tan Than made my heart ache so much. Why did the thought of leaving make me so miserable? Because I damn well loved her. It wasn't just acting out a role for the contract. It wasn't because of her money. But truly loving this strong, intelligent, and occasionally gentle woman. Yeah, my voice trembled. I like you too. Luther Jiao lit up. Really? Yeah, I nodded. Even though you're difficult, controlling, and a workaholic. Luther Jiao raised an eyebrow. Are you sure this is a confession? But you are you. I took a deep breath. I seem to have really fallen in love with you. Luther Jiao suddenly smiled, the most beautiful smile I'd ever seen. She stepped forward and gently hugged me. So, can you not leave anymore? I hugged her back, smelling the scent of her hair. I won't leave. That's it. We just held each other in the living room, saying nothing. A long time later, Lu Shujiao let go of me. By the way, about Bai Yuntao. How did he know our secret? Oh, I frowned. I guess he deduced it himself. Lu Shujiao looked pensive. He's always wanted to replace me. Perhaps he investigated you. And Qincheng? I said bitterly. You two had a pleasant conversation tonight, didn't you? Lu Shujiao rolled her eyes. I was fishing for information from him. He is indeed involved in the short selling of the Lu Group, but the evidence isn't enough yet. So you were using him? Just like how you once wanted to use me to get 50 million. Lu Shujiao smiled slyly. My face flushed. Can we just move past this? No. Yes, I'm going to tease you about this for the rest of your life. Fine, I let out an exaggerated sigh. Anyway, I have nothing left now. I didn't get the money, and I've given myself to you too. Lu Shujiao suddenly became serious. We bought about that. If you really want that money. Stop, I covered her mouth. If I take the money and leave now, wouldn't I be a total scumbag? Lu Shujiao pulled my hand down. I'm serious. If you have your own career plans. I do have an idea. I hesitated. You once mentioned letting me work at Lu Group. Does that still count? Lu Shujiao's eyes lit up. Of course. But I don't want any privileges. I said seriously. I want to rely on my own abilities to prove that I'm worthy of you. Lu Shujiao's gaze softened. Silly, you've been worthy of me for a long time. My heart warmed, and I leaned down to kiss her. Lu Shujiao's lips were softer than I imagined, carrying a lingering fragrance. She returned the kiss, her fingers clutching my lapels. While we were kissing passionately, Luther Jiao's phone suddenly vibrated. She glanced at it in frustration, then her expression changed. Urgent call from the company. Answer it. I let her go. Luther Jiao took the call, her face growing increasingly grave. When did it happen? Fine, I'm on my way. What's wrong? I asked immediately after she hung up. Something happened. Luther Jiao's face turned pale. Bitch Fan Thao led the core team in a mass resignation, and took several major clients with them. At the same time, online, rumors about product quality issues at Lu Group are spreading. The stock has begun to plummet. I took a sharp breath. Tan Than's doing. He must be in lead with Bitch Fan Thao. Yes, Luther Jiao regained her composure. She walked quickly to the study. I must handle this now. I followed her. How can I help? Luther Jiao opened her laptop without looking up. Contact several major newspapers, prepare a statement to clarify, and check those clients' backgrounds to see if they can be saved. Understood, CEO Lu, I said, giving a half-joking military salute. Luther Jiao looked up. A smile tugged at her lips. Welcome to Lu Group, Consultant Kui. For the next 72 hours. We barely slept. Luther Jiao handled the PR crisis and stabilized internal affairs, while I used my business analysis expertise and skills to support her in organizing information and building strategies. During this process, I saw a whole new Luther Jiao. Resilient and decisive, calm in the face of the company's biggest crisis in history. This charm is even more enchanting than her beauty. Early morning on the third day, when we finally gained control of the situation, Luther Jiao collapsed onto her desk in exhaustion and fell asleep. I gently picked her up, intending to take her to the bedroom. Just then, her phone vibrated. A message appeared on the screen. It was from Tan Fan. The REM has just begun. Choose quit Badat or watch Lucy go bankrupt. Make your choice. My blood froze. It turned out everything was because of me. I looked at the message. My fingers unconsciously tightened. Tan Fan, you bastard. Daring to use all of Lucy to threaten Luther Jiao to leave me. Luther Jiao stirred slightly in my arms, her eyebrows furrowed. Even in her dreams, she could feel my anger. I took a deep breath. Gently carrying her into the bedroom, I carefully placed her on the bed. As soon as her head hit the pillow, Luther Jiao curled up like a tired child. I gently covered her with a blanket. I couldn't help but kiss her forehead. Returning to the study, I picked up her phone. My will told me I should wake her to discuss a strategy. But seeing her tired face while sleeping, I didn't have the heart to do it. Over the past 3 days, she had hardly slept. She had only just closed her eyes. I put the phone down and opened my laptop. Since Tan Fan has declared war, I must be prepared. He isn't the first person to look down on me. And he won't be the last. The blue light from the screen shone on my face. I quickly searched for all public information about Tan Fan and the Tan Group. Financial reports, acquisition records, media articles, any useful clues. I quickly searched for all public information about Tan Fan and Tan Group. Financial reports, acquisition records, media articles, any useful clues. As dawn broke, I finally found a breakthrough. Tan Group had issues with an investment in Southeast Asia last year. Public data doesn't match reports from local media. But furthermore, the CEO of the company Tan recently acquired was forced to resign and had posted several cryptic status lines on social media. I recorded every clue. About to dig deeper when the study door gently opened. Luther Jiao stood at the door, already changed into office wear. Her hair was still a bit wet. Clearly just showered after staying up all night. Yeah, found some clues. I rubbed my stinging eyes and said, look at this. Luther Jiao stepped over and leaned down to look at my screen. The scent of body wash, faintly coming from her, made me lose focus for a moment. You suspect Tan Fan of falsifying financials? Luther Jiao keenly grasped the key point. Not just that, I opened another document. The company they acquired had a core technical team. That's all resigned, but Tan Fan still uses their patents for promotion. Luther Jiao's eyes lit up. So Tan Fan's overseas acquisition is just an empty shell. I said excitedly, right, and continued. He spent a fortune buying a bunch of useless patents. All the real talents are gone. Luther Jiao nodded thoughtfully. If this is proven, Tan's stock will plummet. Not yet, I continued. I found out they're about to have a large debt due. Luther Jiao suddenly grabbed my face and kissed me hard. By Dad, you really are a genius. I blushed. It was only natural. But Luther Jiao turned serious. We need concrete evidence, not just assumptions. I have a way. I smiled mysteriously. Do you remember me saying I'd help a friend with business analysis? Turns out it's a group specializing in corporate investigations. They can help us dig deeper. Luther Jiao raised her eyebrows. You still have this resource? A college friend, now working as a private investigator. Let me get my phone and contact them. Luther Jiao nodded. Contact them immediately. At the same time, we must stabilize the company's situation. She picked up her phone. Seeing Tan Fan's message, her expression darkened. As expected, it's him. I anticipated this dirty tactic. It's just like him. I hesitated. Luther Jiao. If the situation really worsens, you could what? Luther Jiao's sharp gaze fixed on me. Leave you? I lowered my head. I don't want to see you lose the company you built because of Badat. But Luther Jiao lifted my chin, forcing me to look into her eyes. Listen, even if Lu Corp really goes bankrupt, I will never bow down to Tan Fan. A company can be rebuilt, but there's only one QE Badat. Listen, even if Lu Corp really goes bankrupt, I will never bow down to Tan Fan. My heart felt as if it were pierced, both aching and warm. The woman who was once as cold as ice, since when did she learn to say such sweet things? Furthermore, Luther Jiao let me go, the corners of her mouth curling into a cold smile. We haven't lost yet. 2 weeks later, we were as busy as if fighting a war. My friend's detective group actually managed to dig up some lethal information about their family. It wasn't just the Southeast Asian acquisition that had problems with the Tans. Several of their domestic projects also had serious violations. At the same time, Luther Jiao stabilized the company internally. I restructured the team and recruited some top industry talent to fill the gaps left by Bitch Van Thao. Analyzing market data helped her build a counterattack strategy. We coordinated perfectly like longtime partners. With just a glance, Luther Jiao understood me. And I was increasingly able to read her small expressions and gestures. That night, we finally finalized all the evidence. preparing to expose the Tan Group's issues tomorrow. Luther Zhao put the last stack of documents down, breathing a sigh of relief. Done, she said, stretching. Her shirt shifted, revealing a glimpse of her fair waist. My eyes were unconsciously drawn and my throat suddenly felt dry. Over the past 2 months, though, our feelings were clear. Due to the company crisis and work pressure, we hadn't taken things any further. Luther Zhao noticed my gaze and raised an eyebrow. What are you looking at? Nothing. I quickly looked away, pretending to organize the documents. It's just, I think you're very beautiful. The office suddenly went quiet, only the sound of turning pages remained. I felt Luther Zhao looking at me, but I didn't dare look up. The quid by dad, she suddenly spoke, her voice softer than usual. We won. I looked up to meet her radiant eyes. We'll know tomorrow. No, we've already won. Luther Zhao stood up and walked around the desk to me. Hong Fan can no longer threaten us. As she stood before me, so close that I could smell her light perfume, my heart raced and my palms began to sweat. Luther Zhao, my voice was strained. Do you know what you're doing? Next, she leaned down, both hands on the armrests, trapping me between her and the chair. I am seducing my husband. My mind immediately short-circuited. But Luther Zhao, I had never used the word seduce, let alone taken the initiative to do this. Are you sure? I swallowed hard. Come on, there's still a press conference tomorrow. So tonight we need to relax even more. One of Luther Zhao's fingers gently grazed my collar. Unless you don't want to. I grabbed her wrist and suddenly stood up, pushing her against the desk. You're playing with fire, CEO Lu. Luther Zhao's breathing was clearly faster, but her gaze was still full of challenge. So what? So what? So what? I leaned down and kissed her. This kiss was more passionate than any before. Luther Zhao immediately responded. Her fingers ran through my hair, pulling me closer. The piles of documents on the desk were swept to the floor. But who cared? At this moment, my world only had Luther Zhao, her breath, her body heat, the rapid breaths in my ear. Wait, Luther Zhao suddenly pushed me away, her cheeks flushed. Let's go to the bedroom. I immediately picked her up and strode toward the master bedroom. Luther Zhao was surprisingly light in my arms, but she brought a sense of unprecedented fulfillment. The master bedroom door was kicked shut by me. We put all the restraint and waiting of 2 years into tonight. When Luther Zhao, trembling beneath me, reached the peak, I felt as if I had conquered the whole world. Afterward, I held Luther Zhao. My fingers unconsciously traced circles on her smooth back. Luther Zhao leaned against my chest, her breathing steady. Does it hurt? I whispered. A little, but it was great. I kissed the top of her head. I thought you would be more experienced. Luther Zhao pinched me. Who do you think I am? It's not that, I hurried to explain. It's just that you're so outstanding, with so many pursuers. Work was busy, and Luther Zhao said softly, I hadn't met someone I truly wanted to be with until I met you. I cheekily asked, until you met me? Luther Zhao looked up and glared at me. Don't be so full of yourself. I was just so bothered by you that I couldn't stand it anymore. I laughed and flipped over to pin her down. Then let me bother you once more. Luther Zhao's resistance was cut short by my kiss. That night, we explored each other's bodies like two explorers, finding a new continent, tirelessly giving and receiving. The next morning, when the alarm rang, I reluctantly opened my stinging eyes. Luther Zhao was already awake, leaning against the headboard reading documents. She was wearing my shirt with her hair casually tied up. Up so early? She didn't look up. The press conference starts at 10. You have 1 hour to get ready. I propped myself up and kissed her bare shoulder. Did you sleep well last night? Luther Zhao finally put the documents down. She turned to look at me. What a silly question. Her lips were slightly swollen and her neck had a few marks I'd left behind. Looking at these trophies, I smiled triumphantly. Don't just daze off. Luther Zhao gave me a shove. Get up. Today is very important. Yes, General Manager Lu. I gave a military salute, jumped out of bed, and rushed into the bathroom. The press conference hall was packed. Luther Zhao, in a sharp white suit, stood on the stage. Speaking fluently, confident and elegant, she announced the evidence of the Tan Group's violations. Based on the facts above, Luther Zhao calmly concluded, we have filed a formal complaint with the Securities Commission, and will use the law to protect our rights at the same time. Reporters are frantically taking pictures. Flashlights flashed throughout the hall. I stood at the corner below the stage looking at the radiant Luther Zhao. My heart was filled with pride. At this moment, my phone vibrated. A message from my detective friend. Heavyweight News Tan Than is involved in insider trading. The evidence has been sent to your email. I immediately opened the email and skimmed through the attachment. It truly is a blockbuster. Tan Than had bought a large number of short sell options before carrying out the attack on Lu Corp. I hurriedly signaled to Luther Zhao on the stage. She understood, and after answering the correct question, she spoke. Sorry, I have just received important additional information. Then she announced this new discovery. The entire hall was in an uproar. Some reporters immediately started live streaming. In less than half an hour, Han Group's stock plummeted uncontrollably. Tan Fan had to urgently suspend trading. I completed, had to urgently suspend trading. After the press conference, Luther Jiao was surrounded by reporters. I stood outside the circle looking at her, answering every question with ease. Heart full of pride. Mr. Koi, a familiar voice echoed from behind. Turning around, I saw Bitch Fan Fao standing there, disheveled, looking haggard. Mr. Bitch, I said coldly. Is there something? I'm here to apologize. Bitch Fan Fao bowed his head. I think Tan Fan tricked me. He said he only wanted to make CEO Lu change her mind. So you betrayed the company? I sneered. Now that you see Tan Fan is finished, you come back to beg for forgiveness? Bitch Fan Fao's face turned ashen. Mr. Koi, I've worked at Lu Corp for 10 years. Then all the more reason not to betray Luther Jiao. I interrupted. But don't worry, she's already prepared to sue you. Bitch Fan Fao's face was deathly pale. Is there no other chance? No, I said firmly, if you do wrong, you must pay the price. Even a child understands this truth. Bitch Fan Fao was about to say something more when Luther Jiao's voice rang out from behind. Goodbye, Dad, let's go. As she walked over, she naturally took my arm, not even glancing at Bitch Fan Fao. How was the press conference? I asked intentionally. Very successful. Luther Jiao smiled softly. Fan Fan must be in a total mess right now. We left the hall side by side. The sunlight shone on us, warm and pleasant. Shall we celebrate tonight? I suggested softly. Luther Jiao raised her eyebrows. Celebrate how? You'll find out when we get home. I winked mysteriously. That night, we opened a bottle of champagne at home. To celebrate the crisis being resolved. To celebrate our wedding night. I wasn't drunk. Luther Jiao leaned into my arms and suddenly said, Goodbye, Dad. Thank you. For what? Thank you for not leaving. She said softly, thank you for choosing to stay and fight with me. My heart warmed as I leaned down to kiss her. Silly, I'm not going anywhere. The moonlight filtered through the curtains onto the bed, reflecting our entwined silhouettes. At night, we were no longer a contract couple. No longer business partners. Just two people in love, enjoying the intimacy and warmth, the most primal essence of love.